What's up, traders? Welcome to Plays of the Day. Excuse me, of the day. My name is Thomas, and if you guys haven't seen me before on Austin's channel, I am streaming a couple times a week, doing just an afternoon recap because we all know about ASFX TV, and that's going on in the morning, and then in the afternoon we need something else to recap what's happened going on through the day so far. So honestly, today has been quite a choppy day. I am a little red on the day, and we're going to go over what my trades were. I have a couple different topics to cover. And first, anyone who's in the chat, say what's up. We already got Doug in here. I know that name. If you guys are new, say what's up. If you've seen me before, let me know what's going on. So getting into the market, let's just recap what happened today, where we are on a slightly higher time frame picture, and why we're so choppy. So if we look at it from let's go to the hourly chart. This was the Trump news. So we have this is the tariff anchor. So basically this is just going to give us a really good understanding of who is in control from the tariff news. So currently the bulls are in control. However, this does look like we're like consolidating very tightly up here, and we're finding resistance at this 5,500 level, which is basically the top of the range. If you just nix out this like pre-market session, then this would really be the top of the range after this tariff candle. So getting into today's charts, there's a specific this is the reason why I didn't trade it long at the open. So Brian Shannon, he talks about a VWAP pinch, and that's when, like, for example, if we had a VWAP swooping in like this, which I'm sure you could find a VWAP that's doing this, and then a VWAP that's like this, vol price is in between the two VWAPs, that is a pinch. So at the open, it's not that we were in the middle of a VWAP pinch, but I see it as we're in a pinch from the top of the range, this high from yesterday, and then the FOMC or the Terra VWAP, as well as just these lows. We're in a very tight range, so I wasn't ready to take longs into the top of this range. For me today, I was waiting for this range to be broken, retested, and then as the range is retested and held, I would be looking to capture that next leg up. So that's the reason for no longs on the day today. However, Austin did have longs at the open, and he's been doing more of a scalping approach recently that has been treating him very well. He saw this bullish candle and used that as the momentum catalyst to take this long into the open. So the stop was at the bottom, and then he was able to capture this move initially right at the open. And there's another guy in the Blackshirt Club right now, Troy, who's been capitalizing on trades before the opening range has been set, because that's really been where the cleanest moves have been this week. It's like right at the open, we consolidate, move in one direction, and then kind of either find our next leg or can continue to chop. So who traded today, and are you guys red or green on the day? Because I know a lot of people were hitting max daily loss yesterday and today. I also had some really clean trades yesterday, so I'm going to run over those a little bit more into the stream. But as just to go over currently what's happening in the market right now, we are potentially finding a break of initial bounce low. Initial bounce has not been taken out. That's the white lines here, which is also just the first 1 hour of the session, the high and the low. We know that when one side is taken out, about 80% of the time we want to close on that side. And it's basically like it's a sub 1% chance that we don't break either side. So we're basically just waiting to find a break. But the way I'm using the stocks right now to help me find my bias, and this is what really led to me having, two really clean trades yesterday, was using the VIX. So when the VIX is in the red, that generally means stocks want to go up. And then when the VIX is in the green, that means stocks want to go down. Anything sub 5% either direction, I'm not taking into consideration. It's not an important move. it just doesn't hold enough weight for me to consider it. I haven't found any edge in that. So I'm not really taking this into consideration at all, but it is a note because as we get lower, if the VIX doesn't turn green, I'm going to struggle to take an A plus setup on the short side. So going into the trade setups today, we had long at the open. There was an opportunity to take a high of day VWAP break right here. And you would have either been entering on the bounce off New York VWAP or the break of high of day VWAP. Both of them were valid entries. And quite frankly, I see this as the stop. This pin would have to be the stop because there's there's no way that you can put a 30-point stop and then be shooting for 30 points when I just went over that we're trading right into the top of this range. And I was able to draw this today because now that these wicks are here. But before I saw it, this is the top of the range. So we were getting minimal extension at best. So to be saying, I'm just betting that the market goes up today. When we're at the key resistance, that's when it's going to be the hardest time for me to buy because there's no real confirmation. So if you took this trade with a 12-point stop, you still didn't make your full 1R. This is where discretionary exits come into play. And you're either probably taking a break even on this trade or taking a small gain. So that was basically the first two long setups at the open. However, I was also looking to take a short. I had an idea to potentially take a short right here with a stop at high of day. This entry was a little bit premature, and I was kind of banking on this was not, and again, this was not a trade I was in. This is just a trade that I was marking up, but I saw this being the high and then this being the lower high. And then as this starts to fall over back into the range with some strength, I thought that could be a good place to sell, but I'm selling against the New York VWAP. I'm selling against the green stocks because at the time stocks were green, and you don't really have a great stop placement other than just guessing. So the next entry that really came in was this one right here because this was the news. And let me actually just quickly pull up and we'll go over my TradeZella and everything like that. We'll pull up exactly what the news was. It was something about EU tariffs. Yeah, so EU expects US tariffs to remain as discussions make little progress. So before, when we were getting tariff news, we were dropping and then we were having follow through. But right now, there seems to be some indecision in the market about whether tariffs are basically about just what tariffs are we implementing, which countries are we actually implementing tariffs against? Is there retaliatory tariffs? Is there just tariffs on electronics? No electronics? There seems to be a lot of confusion. So we're not seeing follow through because of that. On this move, we do get a solid drop in comparison to the day. If the whole day we've moved 50 points and then we move 43 points on tariff news, that's a significant amount of volatility that it's adding. But the problem is we're not finding follow through because the market is uncertain about whether any of these announcements are actually going to be implemented or not. And this is all hypothetical, all speculative, but this is just my best guess from watching the news, watching the charts, and all of that stuff. So with that being said, though, let's get into my two trades today. I took this break of low of day VWAP, and I see this as the first break outside the range, a retest of New York VWAP, and then I'm just looking for continuation, breaking the initial bounce low and making a new low of day. This is a trade that I've taken hundreds of times, and it has worked hundreds of times. It was just a loss this time. Now, to be a little critical of my performance, this is where I could have been a lot better. I got back into the short on the next break of low of day VWAP with a stop at the top of this candle pin. And then it just went straight into drawdown. I was maybe a little bit too zoomed in, maybe a little bit frustrated that my trade had just gotten stopped before it started to turn again. and overall maybe just not being as in tune with the market as I could. So those were the two losses I took on the day. And this is the another news candle, again with no follow through though. So that was the highest amount of iPhones in a month, worth 1.3 billion from India to the US ahead of the Trump tariff. So this is where we can get a little speculative and think, did Apple know about these tariffs before, and is that why they imported so much, so many iPhones before, to save themselves some money off of their bottom line? Now, just for a more current trade call, this definitely is in play for me right now. I'm not going to be in this because we have not broken the initial balance. So I'm not going to trade with the anticipation that the initial balance gets broken. If the initial balance gets broken, then I will trade in that same direction, looking to continue the trend. Because when we do look at the 15-minute chart, there's a lot of gray space underneath us to 53.66. So this is one of those days where, or one of those trades actually, because this doesn't have to happen today. We can stay consolidating at the top of this range, basically somewhere in here from 5,500 to 5,400, this 100-point range. And then as soon as that range is broken, we suck lower to the VWAP. And this is my only level of clear structure below us before hitting some more higher lows. And then another anchor that Brian Shannon uses is if we put it from the low. So this, if we look at it on the 4-hour chart, let's see, we'll just go reset price view. If we look at it from the 4-hour chart, this is the low, and it was the low made on Sunday of last week. And you could see that pin was respected here. So basically we have, in terms of what I'm looking at for key VWAPs, we have the 53.59 VWAP, which is from the tariff news. And then we also have 52.35, which would be essentially the low of month, the low of week, area VWAP. So we'll switch this back to the 15-minute chart. Yeah, you can see on this one, we made the next swing low, but pulling back a bit. VIX is still red. So let's cover the trades I took yesterday. Right now, I am trading on my top one account. You can see this is the trades from earlier. Trading on the top one account, and it's been amazing. They're the only prop firm that has Project X and copy trading, especially for a firm with straight to sim funded that's verified on prop firm match and websites like that. So if you guys need any new accounts, hit the link I'm going to post in the chat right now and use the code Thomas for 50% off. So looking at the trades yesterday, because I feel like I had a very good read on yesterday's price action. I'm just going to plot out the opening range high and low, because a lot of people in my trading group were getting sucked into the shorts here at the New York VWAP. But I saw through that, in particularly because of the VIX. Now, we can't go back in time and look at this chart yesterday, but what I can do is pull up my daily report card, because my daily report card shows all of it. So this is the daily report card, and at my first entry, the VIX was at negative 16% and stocks were green. Now, looking at this, if you wanted to take a short right here, that is like directly going against my rule of, if I'm going to short the market, the VIX has to be in the green. So with the VIX at 16%, and like I said, if it's at anything within that 5% range, I'm not taking it into consideration very heavily. It's not that important to me. But negative 16, that's giving me a really, really strong bullish bias. And so this was my entry. We can see just by a tick, just by a single tick, we broke the opening range low yesterday. So now I'm trading to the double break trade. which I teach on the Top One Futures Academy. So this trade was actually a losing trade idea. The trade idea was going for the break of the range with just a few points outside the range to capture, like, whatever when it breaks out. And the trade starts to show me it wants to work. It pulls back, makes a new higher low, and then it finds resistance at the top of the range right by the open price. And here I'm thinking, I have to lock in some gains. So what I did was I took 3 of 4 contracts off right here and then locked the stop. As you can see, as soon as I did that, the market started to come back. And this is why I think the market is really difficult to trade right now, because there's no clear direction with stocks, the VIX, and the market's price action. Because despite the VIX being at almost 20% in the negative where I took profits, we still slide and finish lower. So for that reason, specifically that it wasn't finding a lot of bullish momentum, I decided to just lock the stop, take some off. Now, I let this move just do its thing as it starts to fall, because I don't want to fade the momentum, but I also and try and take it long, but I also don't have a great entry signal for this type of price action. Now, as soon as we found some consolidation, this is not a bottom, but like once we make a low and then we consolidate for more than just this here. Like this here is a very short-term consolidation, and for me, I want to have a little bit more information, a little bit more of a structure for me to put a stop at. So what I did to find my second entry was place a VWAP on the low of day candle at the time. And then I didn't take the first break, and I didn't take the second break either, because the second break didn't make a new low of day under these candle bodies. What I did was wait for price structure to show us that it's trying to come lower. It's making those, what would it be, a lower high on top. And then the entry was actually right here with a stop at the top of this candle. And then I was just targeting 15 points, and I ended up trailing my stop through this candle to take as much as I could out of it. So this ended up being my exit price, which ended up being the lowest price of the day as we continued to retrace. So those were my 2 trades yesterday. I had a really good read on the market. And then now as we go back, we are breaking the initial bounce low. So this was the trade where, how I said, I'm not going to be in this because I don't anticipate. I just react. And if I got into this trade, yes, the majority of what the market is showing me says we want to be going lower, but I need to wait for that additional confirmation of the initial balance being taken. So we covered the range. We covered the range that we're trading in. We covered the trades I took yesterday. We're to leave with a bias. We're definitely going to be leaning more short biased throughout the rest of the session if I take anything. And then lastly, I just want to speak a little bit on progress and what progress looks like in trading, because I'm currently in probably one of my worst trading periods I've ever had. I don't think I've ever been read this consistently and been struggling to hit winning trades this consistently. But what I want to highlight is that all throughout Q1, when I was taking red days, I was taking really big red days and either blowing accounts or hitting close to a max daily loss. But since that happened, I've learned from that. I said to myself, it is so important that I have conservative personal daily loss limits. So this is a great tip and a great thing why I love Top One Futures. In my pre-trading routine, and this is today, like I'm down today almost 2K on some of my accounts. So I sign an agreement with myself that says I'm trading for the long term, and then I go into Top One and lock out my risk settings. So this is my other set of accounts, but you can go into the settings here and you can set your personal daily loss limit. Because I got access to Top One Futures a little early, I have 2 different sets of accounts. So this is just one instant funded that I'm trading. And what you can do is lock out the risk settings for the whole entire day. So now I can't change this. If you're trading on Top Step, you can go in and change the risk settings after you've already set them. So I find that's not in the best interest of the trader. I have set my risk settings, but then gotten very close to it, and then you just change your risk settings and allow for more downside. So this is a 100% for the trader add-on that Top One Futures has exclusively with Project X as of right now. So yeah, going back to going back to TradeZella, risk settings is so important. I lock them out at the beginning of every day, so I can't blow accounts. I can't blow my account. It's impossible. So yeah, this is what progress looks like in trading. It's 1% better in the areas that we can control. I can control my downside risk. So that is what I did. Before, I wasn't having enough control of my downside risk, so I made that adjustment. And now, despite being red majority of the time, I still have more than half my drawdown in all the accounts. I'm in a totally comfortable place to dig out from. And especially, it kind of bodes the question of, is this the market conditions that I want to be trading in? I don't know. Not this is for me like a very, I'm finding a difficult time trading in this market. So that's telling me I need to size down, take it easy, and be defensive. So just to wrap up the stream, because there's not that much action going on, there's not that much to cover. I just want to leave everyone with the message of play defense. And as one of my favorite traders always says, learn to survive the learning curve. You just have to survive the learning curve, especially for traders like me in their first 3 years. So I hope everyone stays safe in the markets out there. And you can always hit me up in the DMs for any questions about markets and Top One Futures. So cheers, everybody. Have a great day.